Today we'll be discussing the provider workflow for initiation and conduct of a telemedicine encounter through the executable version 11 of eClinicalWorks. At this point, the patient has already been scheduled with a telemedicine appointment. There's a separate training video for that process. In summary, the steps are exactly the same as when we schedule an in-clinic visit. The only difference is that a different visit type is selected. The majority of providers operate from the office visits view we see here. So we are looking at the schedule for a test provider, and we have a televisit appointment with a test patient on our schedule. Two things to note on this screen. Number one, we can tell this is a televisit most obviously because there is a video camera icon to the left of our patient name with the letters TV inside it. We also see that the visit type has our 3-letter practice initials or 4-letter practice initials followed by TEL-VST. Some practices may see TL-MED. Either of those visit types are associated with a telemedicine encounter versus an in-clinic encounter. Opening the progress note will be exactly the same as we do if we are seeing a patient in clinic, so I will just double click on my patient's name or that appointment line. For the purposes of training, we are not going to carry medications forward. And now we'll just review a couple things in the progress note that look a little bit different. The main thing is that we see this orange televisit button in the upper right corner of the right-hand chart panel. This will be utilized to initiate the televisit when our patients are in the virtual waiting room or prior to the scheduled appointment time for that patient. Providers may click this button at any time to open up the window of the Helo agent that will initiate the televisit and provide audio and video feed of patients for the providers to interact with and conduct the visit itself. If we click the button now, we'll see that this dot to the right of the word televisit is gray. That is an indicator that we do not currently have this patient in the virtual waiting room. Once our patient has joined the virtual waiting room, two things will happen, or three things rather. Number one, that gray dot beside the word televisit will turn green. You'll also see we have an orange Start Televisit button at the top of our screen. And the third indicator is this pop-up that we see in the bottom right corner. If we click on this pop-up itself, this will actually allow us to initiate the televisit outside of eClinicalWorks. If we miss that pop-up, we're also able to use this Start Televisit button to initiate the audio and video feed with our patients. Prior to doing that, our patients are able to answer questions that are associated with a televisit, much like they would if we are using an iPad for collection of electronic intake data. If you have existing questionnaires that you would like mapped to your visit type, please reach out to software support at fidata.com via email to get that set up. If you do not have a questionnaire in place, you may also reach out to software support at fidata.com. Let us know what information you would like included in that questionnaire, and we can get it built for you. Vital information may be entered by our patients prior to starting the televisit with you as providers. That will also be visible here, so you can review it prior to conduct of the televisit, and this information will also be available during the televisit itself. When we click the Start Televisit button, we will actually initiate the audio and video feed with our patient. Prior to our video showing up, we need to allow access to our integrated camera and microphone. This information will not need to be configured by you as a provider. When you actually initiate the televisit, the EMR will automatically select the defaults for your computer. Once we click Yes, Allow Access, we would see the video feed for the provider appear where the spinning wheel is. Now my webcam is muted today, so for purposes of the training, this window remains black. In the live environment, again, your video feed as a provider will appear in this bottom right corner, and the patient video feed will appear in this larger black box. Once we've initiated the televisit, we'll notice that this counter in the bottom left corner of the video window begins. This can be used to track the time you've spent in the encounter with this patient. The pause button just to the right will pause your video feed. You'll note that if I click this now, we see a silhouette appear in the window that shows us our provider video feed. This will also appear for patients. So they'll no longer be able to see you as the provider, but they will be able to hear you. We can start the video again at any time. This microphone allows us to mute audio. If we mute the audio but do not pause video, patients will still be able to see you, they just won't be able to hear you speaking to them. As we conduct a televisit, it may be necessary to take a screenshot or a screen clipping of the video feed from the patient. In order to do so, we'll utilize these two camera icons here in the center of our window. The first captures a full screenshot of the video feed. Now again, if we had a active webcam, we would see the patient's video feed here in the center of our screen. You'll note that after I clicked that camera button, we have a screenshot appear to the right of our video window. If we need to select a segment of that video feed as opposed to the entire window, we'll use this camera button with the plus sign in the upper right corner, and I can actually drag and select an area of the video feed to take a snapshot of. It's a little difficult to see just because it's black, but there will be a black outline around the area that you are snipping from this video feed. In order to upload these images to the progress note, we can either click on the image itself, you'll see a check mark appears to the right and in the bottom right corner of the image, or we can click in that checkbox and again that will select the image for upload. This button here with the upward facing arrow in our lower right corner allows us to actually import those photos into the progress note. We'll know that import was successful when we see this white check mark in the green circle on the images themselves. To close this video window and take it down from full screen again into our smaller window, just click the button in the upper right corner with the four arrows facing inward, and we'll see our smaller video window reappear. This red button allows you as the provider to end the call or end the televisit. You will be asked to confirm termination of the call prior to actually closing out this window. So if you click this button in error, you will not be automatically disconnected from your patients. The last button in this row to discuss is this speech bubble here. This is a chat feature that will allow you as a provider to send instant messages to and from your patients. You'll see that the transcript of those messages appears above the line where you enter your information. This will be saved for the duration of the televisit, but will not be available following termination of the televisit. So this will not automatically be imported into the progress note or saved in eClinical Works. We can leave this chat box open as needed. We can also toggle back to the questionnaire and vital information provided by our patients by using this button in the corner again. So you'll see that as we toggle between those two views, we go from the speech bubble icon to the piece of paper and the stethoscope. And then you can also toggle between questionnaires and vitals using these buttons here. We don't have a questionnaire associated with this particular visit type in training, so that's why we don't see any information here. If a questionnaire was tied to this visit type, then we would have the ability to import the answers either on a line-by-line basis or as a whole directly into the progress note. There will be a button very similar to what we saw in the imaging window that will allow us to actually import that information. Upon completion of the televisit with the patient, you as the provider may use this red button here to end the call. By clicking on that, we again see the confirmation that asks if we are sure we want to end the televisit. By selecting yes, we will close that Helo agent window that had our video feed in it, and on the patient's side of things, they will receive a message that indicates the call has been ended. One thing to keep in mind is when patients enter the virtual waiting room, their status in the office visit screen is updated automatically to arrived. Again, we know our patients are in the virtual waiting room because when we click this orange televisit button, in the window that appears, we will see a green dot to the right of the word televisit. We'll see an orange button that says start televisit, and we also may see that pop up from the Helo agent appear in the bottom right corner of our screens. Once we've selected to end the televisit, our patient status will again be updated in the office visits window, this time to checked out. So there will be no manual manipulation required to change the patient status as they flow through the encounter. Upon completion of the televisit, once you have completed your charting and all information necessary is captured in the progress note, we're ready to enter our CPT codes and lock the note for billing. As an aside, you'll see here at the bottom of our progress note, this is where those images we captured appear after we upload them into the progress note itself. One thing to draw attention to as we discuss billing for telehealth visits, we have created a super bill that captures commonly used CPT codes and ICD-10 codes that may be applicable to your specialty. If not, I'd still like to cover it just so you're aware that it is available as a resource. We access super bills by clicking the green caret to the right of this details button at the bottom of our screen, then selecting super bill from the menu that appears. Some of you may not have the Televisit super bill set as your default. If not, that's okay. You still have access to it. Just use this drop-down menu in the center of your screen to select Televisits from the list that populates, and what we're seeing here will appear. If you have already added an assessment and there is an ICD code in the progress note currently, you will not need to select a new one from here unless it needs to be added. Otherwise, you can just utilize the CPT code selection functionality. The advantage of this over entering CPT codes manually is that the 95 modifier that indicates this was a telemedicine visit is already tied to the CPT codes captured in this super bill. Since I don't currently have an assessment code in this progress note, I will select one using the checkbox to the left of the code itself, and then I'll move over and select a CPT code. Now before I do that, I just want to draw attention to this first CPT code here, TLVST. This is a placeholder for our self-pay patients. In the event we see a self-pay patient, we will use this CPT code to bill for their visit. There will be another training video that discusses this process in detail. Just wanted to draw your attention to it here. For third-party payers and commercial payers, we'll select our CPT codes just like we do for in-clinic visits. Again, the advantage to using this super bill is that the 95 modifier is actually tied to these CPT codes, so it won't need to be manually added from the visit code section. I will just select an example E&M code here. We'll see that once I've selected my ICD and CPT codes, that this window comes up confirming that my ICD code is tied to the CPT. You'll see our 95 modifier here. Once I'm done with this particular CPT ICD association, I will click Save. If I need to add any more ICD and CPT codes, I have the ability to do that. If not, we click Save at the bottom of the super bill, and you'll see that our assessment code pulled through to the progress note in addition to our procedure codes. Billing for CMS is a bit different than billing for commercial third-party payers. We have additional guidance available and reference materials that can help with that. So those will be made available in separate communications. As of now, once the charting is complete, all applicable procedure codes have been captured. The note may be locked, and it will cross over to Imagine in the same way as charges do for in-clinic visits with the appropriate place of service assigned.